Since we are 5 minutes late, I won't hold you up any longer. We're going to need to take some staffers to help me clear this, because all I'm going to say is DreamWorks is very happy to present the 25th anniversary year of Star Trek to Chicago. Get on there!
Did you hear me? Hello, Chicago. I finally got here. Is everybody happy? I can't hear you. Really, I want to thank Jonathan for having me here. I have thought about Chicago many times. I haven't been here for many years. One of the real early conventions we did, I don't know, it was in the 70s, I think. The Hilton Hotel. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I'm a doctor, not a mechanic. We had a wonderful time. Chicago is a wonderful city. How many people are here that are not from Chicago? How many are here from out of the United States? New York? Where in the hell are the rest of you from? Pittsburgh, I see. Well, anyhow, welcome from wherever you are. You're wonderful. I don't think I've ever seen a better looking group of people. I love your weather here. Real California weather. Anyhow, this is my first time back here for a convention in all of those years. And again, I want to tell you how much how pleased I am to be here. Some time ago, I wrote a poem called The Big Bird's Dream that I'm sure many of you have heard. And then I wrote a poem called The Dream Goes On after that. And when it looked like for a while we were not going to do Star Trek 6. So we had a big convention in LA, and I wrote another poem, and I titled it The Dream Ends. And then I heard a few groans, so I decided to call it The Dream Goes On and On. Would you like to hear it? I can sit here, stand here and read poems to you all day long.
Oh, that's
This one is called The Dream The Dream Goes On and On and On. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I think some of you heard me say, Star Trek lives, it will not die. And you are the someone who made it fly. Well, the studio was in a kind of fix. They wanted to do number 6. After we did number 5, Paramount's faith took a dive. Then they thought of all the press they could get, and suddenly it became a very good bet. So they put out the word for the world to hear, Star Trek VI for the 25th year. Lots of changes are taking place. You turn around, there's a brand new face. It goes to show you never know. They even let Mancuso go. Harv Bennett, left in a huff, simply said he'd had enough. Give him credit, he stood his ground, and I'll miss knowing that he's not around. He'd been with us since Star Trek II, and that alone was tough to do. He was always there to hear you out, no matter what it was all about. And another reason for liking him, he scrubbed that line. He's dead, Jim! It's good to know, just in case, that we've got Ralph Winters in his place. A better man could not be found, and we thank our stars that he's still around. Now I've got some more good news. We've got Nick Meyer. How can we lose? It's good to have someone we know to see us through this final show. Star Trek VI was made for you. It's Paramount's way of saying adieu. Please accept it with deep appreciation from those of us in the Federation. We don't care about a critic's review. We only hope it pleases you. They've criticized our bellies, wrinkles, and hair. We just keep going. We don't care. I don't suppose they've ever been told that all of us are growing old. It seems to me the thing worth knowing is to simply try to keep on growing. Well, now it's time to check on the crew to see what's old and what is new. Jim has bought a new RV. It's the fanciest one you'll ever see. It must have been built for a movie star. It looks like a traveling bar. He's going to move to Washington State and build a home for himself and his mate. It's on 5 acres way out of town. We'll miss knowing he's not around. He's sick of the traffic and the LA noise. He wants to relax with Wendy in the bowl. Pocketbook decided, after taking a look, that they'd republish Walter's book. But not before he agreed to relent and let them use that damn accent. When George lost his job on the mayor's staff, I thought he'd lose that crazy laugh. But when he's back on the set, it's louder than before. He's blown 20 takes and maybe more. And as most of you probably already know, Michelle now has a one-woman show. She's touring the nation in a variety of roles, touching people's hearts and lifting their souls. She's got talent, looks, and guts. She's out there knocking them on their butts. We love Michelle. She's very dear, even with that thing stuck in our ear. Bill, of course, is doing 9/11. He's a star, so he's in heaven. He always seems to be on the go. He even has his own horse show. He works all week and he rides on Sunday. And he's back on the set the first thing Monday. It can't be money he's after. It must be a law of applause and joy and laughter. And I hope he'll always be around with both feet firmly on the ground. After all, it's because of him that I have that line, "He's dead, Jim!" You remember that 20 years, who gave me trouble for 25 years, and who wanted to die in Star Trek II, and gave the impression he was through. Remember? Boy, did he do a turnaround when he heard that money sound. He not only decided he would not defect, but wanted to act and direct. He just went crazy, wanting more. He directed 3 and also 4. Now he's back as a producer actor. That's a very, very important factor. Well, I never thought I'd see the day when Spock would control my movie pay. That's what happened, as you may have heard. So I'm still driving that 68 Bird. But I can't kick about my life. I'm happy in the valley with the very same wife. Finally and foremost, there's my dear friend Gene, the man responsible for this whole wonderful scene. Isn't it strange how one person you know can change the way your life will go? He will always be a part of my life, even though my nurse became his wife. Now all of this has been said in fun and not intended to hurt anyone. You are the reason that we're all here to celebrate this, our 25th year. I always thought Star Trek would just be something constant, such as a seed. But like all good things, this too must pass. So, I'll see you all in the bottom of my glass. You know, speaking of Star Trek VI, I'm here to tell you that I really and truly think you're in for a very enjoyable film. It was a very rough shoot, very tiresome affair. The first 5 weeks of the film involved Leonard, God forgive me for that name, saying that name, Bill Shatner, and myself. And I got to know Bill pretty well during those 5 weeks. And one day I was on the set. In fact, when we had the big convention in LA, he went out on stage. I don't know how many, were any of you here? Well, you know what happened. He went out on stage and he began to nail me to the cross. For no good reason at all. I think he thought it was funny. He was just telling everybody how old I was. My God, he's getting old, you know, and he's doing this. And I'm sitting back there with Leonard. And I said, gee, he really nailed me to the cross. And he had planned to open by telling a story about me on a trick that he played on me on the set. And I knew he was going to open with that, or come right after he started this bit with me. So I decided that when I got out there, I went out, I'm getting confused with this. I went on first. So I knew he was going to open with this story. and he had played the trick on me, and I was going to get even with him by telling his story first. So I went out and told the cookie story first. Well, he went nuts. He just went nuts backstage. So Leonard, when I came off stage, Leonard said, "Bill is a wreck." He said, "You stole his story." I said, "I intended to do it because I told him I was going to get even with him someday, and this is what happened." Then he got out on stage, and that's when he really began to nail me to the cross. So I told Leonard back there, I said, "I'd give anything in the world if they had a hook here." The stage manager at the Shrine overheard me, and he said, "I've got one." So he's out there ranting and raving about me, and so this guy comes backstage, hands me this long hook, huge pole, but it had like a spear thing on the end of it. I had to be very careful. His back was turned to me, and I went out. I said, "Come on with me, Leonard." I said, "You go out too." He said, "No, I can't do that." By God, I'm going to do it. So out I went with this big hook, and he was turned away from me. And he suddenly turned around, and I'm about to hook him on the neck, and he just froze. So I turned around and ran back off stage. But not to be outdone, he said, "Look how old he is." He said, he's already forgotten what he came out here. So I know that some of you may have some questions, so if you want to ask a question, we'll get to that. Yes.
I promised you something.
Okay.
And I'd like to give it to you now.
Oh, thank you. And nice to see you again. DeForest Kelley Compendium. Graphics by Scott Geyer.
My husband.
That's your husband. How nice.
Read the dedications.
Isn't that nice? Thank you, Laura. That's very sweet of you. I appreciate
Dedicated
it.
to Carol.
Dedicated to Carolyn. Here's to you, Carolyn, wherever you are. Yes, in the red jacket.
Yeah, you didn't say what James Johan's up to. What's Mr. Scott doing?
Yes, I did. I said he really is. He bought he's building a house in the state of Washington.
Oh, yeah, oh.
And he's got a new RV that looks like a traveling box.
Oh, I thought
No, that was Jim.
it was a Jim. Okay.
No, you're as confused as I am. Yes, you were first.
Any final word on your star stare about me yet?
And what? Oh, about my star? The tentative date for it is December the 18th. Yeah, the old cowboy is finally going to get a star on Hollywood Boulevard. Oh, you know, when we were doing the movie, we have a marvelous actor in this movie called, his name is Christopher Plummer. He's just terrific in the movie. He plays a marvelous Kelly. And I was talking, he asked me one day, he said, "You worked with Kirk Douglas and Burt Lancaster, didn't you?" And I said, "Yes, I did." He said, "In Gunfight at OK Corral." I said, "Yeah." So we were talking, and I was laughing about how Kirk and Burt fought for the camera, each one trying to outdo the other, or being sure that they had the close-up here, and the other one wanted the close-up. It was really a riot to watch. That was a great experience for me to watch these two stars fighting to get the best angles and so forth. Christopher said the same thing happened to me. He said, I was doing a film with Kirk Douglas and had a rather lengthy scene that Kirk became very disturbed about, and I happened to overhear him discussing with the director, and I heard the director say, Christopher said, "Don't worry, Kirk," he said, at the end of the scene, he said, "We're coming back to you, we're going to focus on you." So, a little later on, I was doing a scene with Christopher, and he's kneeling down, we were both kneeling down, and he was shading me, my life. Having forgotten this story, cameraman said, Dee's getting a shadow there. He said, what is it? And I said to Plummer, I said, if Christopher would just move over to the left a little bit, I said it would open up. So Christopher looked at me and said, anything you say, Kirk. Right after that, we proceed to a very high table where a group of us are around, and it's very necessary for McCoy to be there. And Christopher has on this huge Klingon costume, and he was practically nudging me, you know, off. And I said, excuse me, Bert, I've got to get in here. They brought a poster on the set the day we quit a couple of weeks ago to send back to him. He wanted everyone to sign it. So I signed it to Bert from Kirk. Yes. Yes, Kat.
How did you get picked for the role of Dr. McCoy on Star Trek?
How did I get picked for the role of Dr. McCoy on Star Trek?
Yes.
I really don't know. No, I had done a pilot. I was working in the pilot film of Ride with Clint Eastwood and a man by the name of, God, I can't think his name. Producer on the show, anyhow. Saw me in it, and he became interested in me. I had worked in about 3 or 4 Western pilots, and they all sold. So Bob Sparks was his name. And Bob had become involved with Gene Roddenberry in a new project called 333 Montgomery about a lawyer in San Francisco. So he had mentioned me to Gene, and I went up to meet Gene, and I was tested for it, and all the film was sent to San Francisco, and Ehrlich picked me for it. So I had met Gene Roddenberry that way. That was in around 59 or 60. So then when Star Trek came along, I had drifted back to doing a lot of Westerns. Why, Gene wanted me for the original, but NBC would not go for me because I'd been playing such bad guys all my life. So then they made the second pilot, and I had done another pilot for Roddenberry called Police Story. NBC saw that, and they thought, well, he might be okay for the Doctor. So that's how I got it. Then I was not an either pilot, but I started with the first episode. Yeah, you read that.
I have a question. Did you chance read the book Doctor's Orders?
Yes.
What did you think about it?
Yes, it's great. I think we ought to film it. If anyone in the back, way in the back, would like to ask a question why Lisa is there, a good-looking girl in the aisle, and she has a microphone, or she can relay it to me. Yes, you in the white jacket. Yell it out, maybe we'll get it.
Did you get to meet Liz Taylor when you was working with her on Raintree County?
Yes, I did. I did meet Liz Taylor on Raintree County. It was a very brief meeting because none of my scenes worked with her. I met her on the set, and then I met her again 2 or 3 years ago at Paramount when they had everyone who had starred in a picture for Paramount to take a big photo. Very beautiful, very charming lady. Yes, in the jade dress there. Can I tell you anything about the Star Trek movie? It's difficult. It's difficult to do, only that, as I said earlier, I have not seen any of the dailies. The studio feels very strong about this movie, but studios often feel strong about movies. The answer is going to be whether you feel strong about the movie, and whether you like it or not, and how much your attendance will mean everything. But I really do. I get the feeling in working it that it's going to be a very interesting motion picture. It's got a lot of wonderful dramatic stuff in it. It's got a lot of comedy, and intrigued. Yes, in the Star Trek uniform.
Yes, I would like to thank you for the many hours of enjoyment, especially the punchline in Star Trek 4 as
Must be Mark.
Yes, off the deep end, Mr. Scott.
Not in your way, am I?
Thank you very much for those lovely words. That's always good to hear. You standing there.
When you look back over the years, is there anything, if you could change anything about your role as Dr. McCoy, would you change any part of it?
If I could think about doing, if I had it to do over again, would I do it?
Would you change it?
Would I change anything about the character himself? No, I don't think so. There are always things that you know maybe would have liked to seen developed, but having been on for 3 years, if we had gone 2 years, I think McCoy would have been even more strongly developed. But the character itself, no, nothing there. I thought you were going to ask me a question that was asked us in St. Louis some years ago. Leonard and I were on stage together, and someone asked, you were there. Well, welcome. And someone asked if we had it to do over again, looking back on our career, would we do it again? Now that's a very potent question. I don't know about Leonard or Bill, but and I had been fortunate enough at that time. I was doing television and crossing over and doing motion pictures, and my career was doing very well at that point. And no one knows what would eventually happen to you. But when that question was posed, I looked at Leonard, and Leonard looked at me, and he said, "You first." I might have known. So I thought about it, and I said no, I would not change it. You never know what's going to happen to you in the future, and as I look back on it, Star Trek has brought me many joys, and I think as actors that there are very few actors in this world that have experienced the love and affection from people such as you and fans all over this world, England and France and Germany, East Germany, West Germany, everywhere. And some of the things that we have experienced, I'm sure that other actors perhaps have never experienced or never will. So I'm quite proud and quite satisfied to have spent these years with Star Trek. What was the most what? The most extensive episode that we ever did? Gee, I don't know. I really don't. I can't think. At the time, it seems odd now, but at the time, Star Trek, I believe, was budgeted at around $175,000 an episode, and it went over on some. And at that time, that was an awful lot of money. It's nothing today. You know. I'm talking about the motion picture episode. But I would not know how to sing aloud the most expensive episode that we've ever done. Yes, way back there in the blue. Yes, you.
Could you tell us the story about first trick on you?
On Bill's trick on me? It was really very silly. We all have a table full of goodies on the set. And I had discovered by way of Christopher Plummer, he walked by me one day and I got the fragrance of this marvelous thing he was eating, and he said, well, it's an English muffin, you know, with raisins and that stuff in it. He said, there's a toaster out there, and he said, you can go out there and toast it. So I went out and found there were only two left. And Shatner was standing at the end of the table. And I popped them in the toaster, and then I started to turn away, and the makeup man came to me, and he said, turn around, Dee. He said, I want to check your makeup. So he was checking my makeup, and somebody called me, and I went over to see them, and I came back, and the 2 English muffins had disappeared. So I couldn't imagine what happened, and I was really in a state of shock. They were so delicious, and as I turned around, I saw Shatner stuffing his fat face. Trying to swallow those things as fast as possible. It looked like he was going to choke. And I said, "Oh, so it's you." I said, "Is there anything I can do for you?" And he said, "Yeah, you can call 911. I said, I'll get even with you if it's the last thing I do. He knew of a few tricks I played on some cowboy people, and he tried it about it quite some time. So that's where I got back with him with that hook down there in the auditorium. Yes, you and me.
Will there be any more like cameo episodes on the Next Generation? You did that in the first episode. Will we hear any more about McCoy on that series and all?
He wants to know if McCoy is going to be on the Next Generation in any future episodes, any more cameos. No, I have not heard anything relating to that at all. I did that in the very beginning for Gene, and I wanted to do it, and I don't think anyone else was. Sarah appeared on one, didn't he? Yeah, it's way back there in the dark blue shirt.
Would you make another Western?
Would I make another Western? Yeah, it depends. I guess I would. Yeah. They used to be a lot of fun. I don't know how they would be today. But the whole scene changes. There have not been many successful ones, for a long time, and they've kind of bit the dust. Lady in the yellow shirt.
If we grant that Star Trek: The Next Generation has benefited a lot from Gene Roddenberry's increasing maturity and different special effects, is there anything you think that Star Trek: The Next Generation has lost that is valued about the original series?
Is there anything that I feel that the Next Generation Star Trek has lost?
Granting that it's a wonderful show and you love it, we all love it.
Yeah, wonderful show and you love it and all of that. I don't know, it lost us. It seems to be doing very, very well, for which I'm very happy for them. It's rather difficult for me to look at it, and I think it is any of us, because it's strange. You'd have to put yourself in our place. It's like looking at something, like you're walking back into time or someplace. That it's as if I'm looking at something that we have done, and I find it very difficult to view it as a viewer. I think it's well produced, and of course, after all of these years, the sets are wonderful, and the production values are great, and but that is my feeling with it. The lady in the very back row in the middle of the aisle there is white. It was very weird walking down those corridors. It was quite strange. That little cameo required 5 hours of makeup and 2 days of testing the makeup and the hairpiece and the whole thing. And when I finally got there, I felt like I was 137. But you're right, walking down those hallways and being involved with the new. I only worked with Brent, who is a delightful young guy. I like him very much. He's very talented guy, all yellow eyes. It was weird. Let me put it that way. Weird. In the blue shirt.
What are your favorite movies?
My favorite movies? Well, you're talking to an old-fashioned guy. I have to say one of my favorite movies is Gone with the Wind. I love all the old ones. I love a lot of new ones too. But there's a movie channel that perhaps you get too, the American Film Classics. we get hooked on that, you know, and we just sit and look at them, and it's like reliving your youth. And it's difficult to read some of those wonderful things like Waterloo Bridge, all that stuff that floats through. You think marvelous films that were made in that period. It's strange how we all got by without hitting the hay and cussing in every other word. You wonder where all the sex went and all the dirty words. Way back in the black shirt. I didn't hear it.
What your view of Dr. Crusher is?
My view of Dr. Crusher? Most ladies are very attractive to me. I have viewed her from most angles. And who in the hell do you think she comes to for her annual visit?
Yes, were there any roles that you turned down that went out to be bigger than you are? What roles have you turned down that went out to be bigger than?
Any role that I've turned down that went on to be bigger than me. Everyone I turned down. Not many. When I was swinging around in pictures and television, I was taking just about everything that came my way and having a lot of fun with it. I have never had the opportunity. I turned down a thing, oddly enough, in a television show that I have regretted, because at the time there was a very young director who had not directed anything called Spielberg, directed. And later, you know the rest of it. Yes.
I just want to say you look damn good for 69-ish, and I hope you enjoy these conventions as much as we enjoy you.
Thank you. For the benefit of you who did not hear this lovely lady's comment, she says, I want you to know you look damn good for a guy that's 39.
Bill Shaver.
Got it. Way back there, I see your hand wiggling.
Directing number 6. Who is directing number 6?
Nicholas Meyer is directing number 6. He directed number 2.
Right.
Yeah.
Nick is a very bright, energetic, imaginative young guy, and very talented, and willing to try a lot of things, even though some of them may be wrong. But he's a terrific young director, and I think he's going to bring a lot of energy, and I think you're going to like what he's done. Yes.
Two things. Does McCoy have some good lines in the new movie?
Does McCoy have some good lines in this movie? Yes, I have some pretty potent one-liners in there.
I saw a picture of you and the group at the Gene Roddenberry building dedication. Was that a belt buckle that I've seen before?
Yes. She's speaking of my belt buckle. My fan club president, Sue, gave me this belt buckle on my 138th birthday in Florida. It's a, see?
Oh, you got it on today.
Anybody scream like Chekhov in this next movie? And what are your plans? Who's going to direct number 7? Because I know
She wants to know if Chekhov screams in this movie, only for more lines. They're trying to get him to smile. And your second question?
was, well, really, we know there's going to be a 7.
Oh, you know there's going to be a second. You mean I wrote this poem for nothing?
Write another one.
Huh?
You'll have to write another one.
Oh, she says I'll have to write another poem because there's going to be a number 7. That depends. Yes, in the cap.
Do you think that there'll be a chance, speaking on her question, that there will be a crossover between the old generation and the next generation? And if so, will you be in it?
Will there be a crossover in another film with this generation and the next generation? And if so, would I be in it? I don't know the answer to either one of those questions. I haven't, for your information, I haven't heard any dialogue, concerning this. That's been kicked around and was kicked around also in the television series. They thought it might be interesting to interchange some way or another with the next generation. It's an intriguing idea. You never can say what they will do and what they won't do. Yes?
At the Los Angeles convention, it was very moving, the dedication for Gene Roddenberry. Do you have any thoughts or remember any emotions?
Oh, the shrine dedication that they had to Gene Roddenberry, she said, was very moving. Did I have any thoughts about it? No, it's, I have known Gene longer than anyone in the cast or anyone associated with Star Trek. So he is more than just a creative producer to me. He's a dear person and a dear friend. And naturally, emotions swell up within you when you see the years that we've all known and spent together and what he has accomplished by these phenomenal shows that he has done. And I am deeply grieved that Gene is not in the best of health. But knowing how stubborn he is, I'm sure that he's going to come out of it some way. I just wish I had that big magic needle to use. Thank you for asking that. Yes, you on the aisle.
What episode did you enjoy personally making the most? What episode did you enjoy the most?
Out of the series, episode in the series, there were a couple. I enjoyed City on the Edge of Forever. Salt City was perhaps the best ensemble piece that we had ever done. And having seen it without commercials, just running through in its entirety, it was really quite a wonderful piece of television work. Won the Hugo Award that year. There was a thing that was shot in that was edited, they decided to do away with, and it's when McCoy is staying with Joan Collins in the building up above. You recall? There's a scene that took place between Joan and myself that where she comes up to check on me, and she has some dialogue with me, and there's a kind of a look to me and a look to her, and I have a line about something about, you've got the biggest, most beautiful eyes I've ever seen. And it was beginning to bring out that McCoy was having a feeling about her. And then they decided to go against it, and they eliminated that. Another episode that caught my imagination was filmed on a soundstage somewhat larger than this room, was The Impact. It's done. The Impact was done with the stage completely draped out in black, the entire stage. And all of the lights were pinpoint white lights, like center staging in a theater. And I thought it was most unique to see the way it was done and produced that way. And I thought it turned out to be a hell of a good show.
We have time for a couple more questions.
Okay, a couple more. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Wish I could answer them all. Yes, you, sitting right there.
How did the Spock-McCoy relationship develop?
How did the Spock-McCoy relationship develop? That came about really because of the two of us. We were doing, I don't even remember the episode, and who is directing it. But there was a scene with the two of us, and we each, Leonard looked at me and raised an eyebrow, and I looked back at him with an expression, and the director caught it, and he played it back, the two of us back and forth. And then the writers saw it, and they began to pick up on it. And the audience began to pick up on it, and then they began to write for it. That's really the way it happened. Yes, you.
Okay, being a generation that's grown up with the original Star Trek reruns and the next generation, and having loved to encounter Farpoint and major cameo appearance, is there any kind of advice you'd like to pass on to the next generation?
I have any advice for the next generation? And what they're in for, you mean?
That would grow up looking at the movie, the original, and the next generation and wonder why they never tied it together. And advice to the next generation of people coming in and the show.
Oh, advice to them. Well, yes, be happy with your money. Most disturbances come about with series and negotiation. And it's really difficult with a large cast where you have 7 or 8 people in a cast, and each one, they're all professional actors, and they're there to try to expose themselves to the very best that they can. And in order to do, it's a terrible job to wiggle your way up into some kind of prominence. And my advice is to just have the patience of Joe. You know, it will eventually come. And if that person is sharp enough or good enough, the opening will come, and you will discover it, not us. If you don't pick up on one particular thing, one particular person, that's too bad for all of us. And that's an appropriate way for me to tell you how grateful I am that all of you dear people picked up on me. Thank you very much. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I'm a doctor, not a mechanic. We had a wonderful time here. Chicago's a wonderful city. How many people are here that are not from Chicago? How many are here from out of the United States? New York? Where in the hell are the rest of you from? Pittsburgh, I see. Well, anyhow. And I titled it, The Dream Ends. And then I heard a few groans, so I decided to call it The Dream Goes On and On. Would you like to hear it? I can sit here, stand here and read poems to you all day long.
Oh, that's
This one is called The Dream The Dream Goes On and On and On. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I think some of you heard me say, Star Trek lives, it will not die. Anyhow, welcome from wherever you are. You're wonderful. I don't think I've ever seen a better looking group of people. I love your weather here. Real California weather. Anyhow, this is my first time back here for a convention in all of those years. And again, I want to tell you how much how pleased I am to be here. Some time ago, I wrote a poem called The Big Bird's Dream that I'm sure many of you have heard. And then I wrote a poem called The Dream Goes On after that. And when it looked like for a while we were not going to do a Star Trek 6. So we had a big convention in LA and I wrote another poem.
Now, since we are 5 minutes late, I won't hold you up any longer. We're going to need to take some staffers to help me clear this, because all I'm going to say is DreamWorks is very happy to present the 25th anniversary year of Star Trek to Chicago. Get out of there!
Did you hear me? Hello, Chicago. I finally got here. Is everybody happy? I can't hear you. Really, I want to thank Jonathan for having me here. I have thought about Chicago many times. I haven't been here for many years. One of the real early conventions we did.